Play-Doh. This colorful modeling compound began its life in the 1930s as a specialized cleaning product designed to remove coal soot from wallpaper. At the time, most homes were heated by coal, which left a dark, oily residue on the walls that was difficult to clean with water. The Koudal Products Company in Cincinnati thrived by selling this putty-like cleaner, but as the world transitioned to cleaner heating methods like natural gas and oil after World War II, the demand for their core product vanished almost overnight. The company was on the brink of total collapse when the sister-in-law of the owner, a nursery school teacher named Kay Zufall, noticed that the children in her class enjoyed molding the non-toxic substance into art projects and figures. She suggested that the company remove the detergent and add vibrant pigments and a distinct almond scent to market it as an educational toy instead. This pivot didn't just save the firm from bankruptcy, it created a multi-generational cultural phenomenon that redefined the creative play industry. By recognizing that the physical properties of their product had a more lucrative purpose in a completely unrelated market, the company transformed an obsolete industrial tool into one of the most recognizable toys in history. Wrigley, William Wrigley, arrived in Chicago in 1891 with the intention of selling his father's scouring soap, but he quickly realized that the competition was fierce and he needed a way to stand out. To incentivize merchants to stock his product, he began offering free cans of baking powder as a premium with every purchase, hoping the extra value would convince them to buy his soap. He soon discovered a surprising trend where the baking powder was actually more popular than the soap he was trying to sell, so he pivoted his entire business to focus on the leavening agent instead. To keep this new momentum going, he started giving away 2 sticks of chewing gum with every can of baking powder, once again using a small gift to drive sales of a larger item. History repeated itself when the gum became the primary draw for his customers, leading him to abandon the baking powder business entirely and focus on refining the flavors and marketing of his chewing gum. This double pivot highlights a keen observation of consumer behavior, where the extra feature eventually becomes the core value proposition of the entire brand. It remains a classic example of how staying flexible and listening to what customers actually want, rather than what you want to sell them, can lead to a billion-dollar empire. Twitter. This global communication platform emerged from the remnants of Odeo, a company that specialized in a subscription-based podcasting directory long before the medium became mainstream. When Apple announced the integration of a massive free podcast library into its iTunes ecosystem, Odeo's leadership realized their startup could no longer compete with a giant that controlled the hardware and the software. During a tense day-long internal brainstorming session aimed at finding a new direction for the dying company, the team explored the idea of a simple status update service using SMS technology. The concept was to allow users to broadcast short messages to a small group of friends in real time, focusing on the question of, "What are you doing right now?" This internal side project was initially seen as a distraction, but it eventually decoupled from the failing podcasting business to become a primary source of global news and social interaction. It illustrates how a company can find its greatest success by stripping away its original complexity in favor of a singular, streamlined idea that addresses a fundamental human desire for connection. The pivot saved the founders' investments and created a tool that has since shaped political movements and cultural shifts across the globe. Instagram. Before it was the world's premier photo sharing app, the service was a complex and cluttered platform called Bourbon that attempted to do too many things at once. It allowed users to check in at various locations, earn points for hanging out with friends, make future plans, and post photos of their activities. The founders noticed that while the check-in and gaming features were largely ignored by their small user base, the photo sharing component was being used extensively despite being buried deep in the interface. In a high-stakes move that many thought was risky, they decided to delete every feature of the app except for the ability to upload, comment on, and like photos. They realized that the true value was in the visual storytelling, and they introduced simple filters to compensate for the poor quality of mobile cameras at the time, which proved to be the missing link for mainstream adoption. This radical simplification transformed a struggling startup into a streamlined powerhouse that was acquired for $1 billion just 2 years later. It serves as a reminder that more features do not always mean more value, and that finding the one thing your users love is often the key to explosive growth. YouTube, the world's largest video repository, was originally registered on Valentine's Day in 2005 as a niched video-based dating site with the slogan, "Tune in, hook up." The founders even went as far as offering women $20 to upload videos of themselves describing their dream man just to kickstart some engagement on the platform. After several months of almost zero uploads and no interest from the public, the team realized that the dating niche was far too restrictive and that people wanted a way to share videos of all kinds. They decided to pivot by allowing users to upload any video they wanted, regardless of the subject matter, creating a platform where anyone could host and share digital content for free. This shift coincided with a growing public desire to share personal clips, pets, and viral moments that were previously impossible to host online due to file size and bandwidth costs. By removing the barrier of a specific theme and focusing on the ease of sharing, they unlocked the potential of user-generated content and forever changed the landscape of digital media consumption. The site moved from a failed dating service to a global library of human knowledge and entertainment in a matter of months. Netflix. This company started as a direct-to-consumer DVD rental service that utilized the postal system to bypass the late fees and limited selection of physical rental stores like Blockbuster. While the red envelope model was incredibly successful and led to a dominant market position, the leadership saw a looming threat in the rapid advancement of high-speed internet and digital delivery. They understood that physical media would eventually become obsolete, and they risked becoming a relic of the past if they stayed the course as a logistics company. In a bold and controversial move, they split their business and prioritized a digital streaming service that offered instant access to content. Even though their digital library was small at the time, this preemptive pivot allowed them to control the transition to the next era of entertainment rather than being a victim of it. And they eventually transitioned again into a major film and television studio. It remains one of the most successful examples of a company willing to cannibalize its own profitable business model in order to survive a massive technological shift. By betting on the future of the internet before it was fully realized, they secured their place as the leader of the streaming revolution. Nokia. This Finnish conglomerate has a history defined by radical shifts, beginning in 1865 as a single paper mill on the banks of a river. Over the next century, the company expanded into wildly diverse and unconnected industries, including the manufacture of rubber boots, car tires, and heavy electrical cables. By the late 1980s, the company was struggling under the weight of its own sprawl and faced a severe financial crisis as the global economy shifted away from traditional industrial manufacturing. The leadership made the monumental decision to sell off its traditional divisions and bet the entire future of the company on the emerging and unproven field of mobile telecommunications. This intense focus allowed them to become the world's leading mobile phone manufacturer for over a decade, defining the early era of cellular communication for billions of people. While their dominance in the smartphone market eventually faded, their ability to shed a century of industrial heritage to embrace digital technology remains a landmark in corporate survival. It shows that even the largest and most established companies must be willing to reinvent themselves entirely when the underlying economy changes. Nintendo. Long before it became a name synonymous with digital entertainment and video games, this Kyoto-based company spent nearly 70 years producing handmade playing cards. As the market for traditional card games began to shrink in the mid-20th century, the company's leadership desperately experimented with several ventures to stay afloat, including a taxi service, a chain of short-stay hotels, and even instant rice. These struggles brought the company dangerously close to financial ruin until they established a small research and development department focused on electronic toys and gadgets. They eventually found success with a simple extendable toy called the Ultra Hand, which provided the capital and confidence to move into the burgeoning field of arcade and home video games. This pivot was not just a change in product, but a complete transformation of the company's identity, from a traditional craft business to a global leader in high-tech entertainment. It serves as the ultimate example of how a company can survive for over a century by being willing to abandon its original foundations in search of a new purpose in an ever-evolving world. By leveraging their history of play and creativity, they managed to transition from 19th century cards to 21st century icons.